Okay, everybody, let's take a minute and just review what type of solutions that we have. If you recall back like notebook page 65 or so, we had some situations where we had, and 99% of the time this happens, where we have only one solution, right? This is where we're having that point of intersection. We get an X and we get a Y, and that's the only numbers that work. However, we do get these situations where we have these parallel lines, right? Where we have no solutions whatsoever because they're never going to connect. They're never going to intersect, hence the definition of parallel lines. And then we have the opposite of that, where they intersect everywhere, right? There's infinite points of intersection because they're the same line. And so we have infinite solutions. Now, what does that look like, though, whenever we are going through and we are solving equations? So what we're going to do is we're going to set up on notebook page 83, the first yellow paper that sort of has flaps with it. And we're going to do each side here. And we're going to start with the side that is no solution. So if we talk about with no solution, remember what that means. That means first off that we are going to have parallel lines, right? If we have no solution, those lines are never going to touch and be parallel. What happens if we do substitution or elimination? We're going to find that our variables combine to 0. Okay, so we're going to get like 0x equals 12. Okay, and if we think about this, you can't divide both sides by 0. 0 times what gives you 12? Nothing. And even if you're like, well, divide both sides by 0, and you try that in your calculator, you're going to get an error back. What you're left with is that you're going to be left with an untrue equation, okay, or a false equation, if you will. So whenever we go through and we get this weirdness happening where we have this 0 happening here with our variables, that we go through and we solve it, we end up with something that's not true. So let's see one in action. And you can't tell by looking at it, right? So we start with this guy here. I see 1y equals, so I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be substitution. So I'm going to substitute this guy in. So I'm going to have 18x plus 3, and then parentheses, I'm going to put my 2 minus, I'm going to get a plus and negative 6x equals negative 3. And as I go through and I work this problem out, and again, you might not realize this as you're going through, but we get to this spot here, whenever we're ready to combine like terms, that these two guys here, right, 18x plus a negative 18x gives me a 0x. So, okay, I have 0x plus 6 equals negative 3, and we all know that 6 doesn't equal negative 3, right? That is untrue. 6 doesn't equal negative 3. So this is a case where we don't come up with an answer because there is no answer. These guys were parallel lines, so this would be a no solution. Let's look at it with an elimination problem. So with an elimination problem, again, you can't tell by looking at it that it is that they're going to be parallel here. So let's again go through and find some matches. And I'm actually going to go through, I'm going to multiply this top equation by 7. I'm going to multiply the bottom equation by 6 to get my like terms. So I'm going to end up with negative 420x. Change that guy. So plus the negative 210y equals, don't forget to do the guy there, negative 24. Now I have a positive 420x. And again, here, now you might be going like, oh, there it is. There's a match with the y, whether you realize it or not. Stay still. Okay, and so now I'm going to go through. I have my matches, whether you think you have a matches with the x or match with your y. Either way, I'd go through and I'd be adding these guys. And so whenever I go through and add these guys, I get 0 x's, and I also have 0 y's equals negative 28. And if you think about it, that means this left-hand side is just 0 equals negative 28, which again, that's not true, right? 0 doesn't equal negative 28, so it's another case of no solution.